Over the past decade, the war in Afghanistan has taken a big toll on US and British troops, but perhaps nowhere have the challenges been greater than in Sangin. It's been called the most violent place in the country. The British military held it at great cost, losing more than 100 troops over 4 years. And now the mission has been handed to American forces. They continue to take casualties, but are making big gains in the fight against the Taliban. The BBC's Paul Wood and cameraman Robbie Wright have been embedded with a Marine battalion and filed this report.
Hello.
This was the most dangerous place in Afghanistan. But 4 months after the US Marines arrived, the town of Sangin looks peaceful. It's too soon to tell if this will last, but the Marines did it, they say, with a change in tactics. The many small patrol bases established by the British were closed, freeing forces to pursue the Taliban.
I felt that throughout the battle space there was a change that was needed, and that change was to free up forces to maneuver against the enemy. I wanted to regain the momentum of the attack, and I wanted to be the one that dictated the activities that were going to take place. And I wanted to put the pressure on him.
So the Marines keep pushing. Sangin town may be relatively secure. The surrounding district is not.
Hey, gun one's up.
Just beyond this patrol base is territory the Taliban call their own. The mortars are firing in support of a squad which has come under attack outside the wire.
Well done on one!
The Marines spend hours on foot patrol every day, hoping to run into the enemy. Often they do. When the US Marines first arrived in Sangin, they were being fired upon in their main bases more or less every single day. But they've now expanded a bubble of security, as they call it, and the fighting is mainly skirmishing out here in the countryside.
311 ma'am. It's 700 meters out. Moving east to west.
Come on, come back out. Come to play.
Target down.
Enemy KIA.
Good shooting, bro. He was spotting us from this compound, and he moved back into the compound, moved out again, and we were able to engage him at 800 meters.
The man they've killed was not a Taliban gunman, but a spotter. How did they know he wasn't a civilian?
Just his mannerisms, the fact that he was hiding something that he was talking into. And then I saw him right before he walked back into the building area. He was talking on a radio, and then he came back out and presented himself, trying to be inconspicuous, and that's when we dropped him.
That's hot.
On the way back, they burn piles of corn so that the Taliban can't use them to hide weapons. But to beat an insurgency, often you have to do things which may increase support for it. You burned my maize, says the farmer. Now I have nothing left to feed my cows.
I'll sign him a claim, and he'll be able to take it to the district center.
What kind of problem does he have?
We need water so I can grow my crop of opium, he replied. Victory here depends on winning over the local population. But again and again the Marines come across locals who say that a brother, a son or a cousin has been shot by the international forces. These elders are going to pray for a friend who's just been killed. We don't want your help, they tell the Marines, who've just offered compensation. We don't want your money. You shouldn't kill us, you shouldn't destroy our property. We even shot one of our cows yesterday. What sin did the cow commit? The Marines do find many locals who oppose the Taliban, but they also fear the insurgents. The squad's trying to persuade this man to go to Sangin town to get money for a door they've just kicked in. But there are Taliban on the road, says Mohammed. They will beat or kill me. If I go to town for money from you, they will hang me by the neck.
And here's for 5 trips.
The Marines are acutely aware they're in competition for local public opinion with the Taliban.
We'll be more careful.
They've built sort of a mythology around themselves in this valley with the locals. It's one that the Marines are shattering every day when the farmers go into their fields and find dead Taliban. The Marines control the valley, not the Taliban.
The Marines wade through canals because the pathways are strewn with IEDs or improvised bombs. They're the biggest threat here.
We've got 3 here. Usually find the 1, you can always find 2. When you find 2, there's always 3. So that's the first one, secondary, tertiary. As you can see, they're marked by corn stalks all around them. That's how they mark them. Nation.
And what kind of damage could that have caused had you not found
this? My legs would have been gone.
This one platoon has suffered a 20% casualty rate. The whole battalion has had some 26 killed in 4 months. That's a quarter of the more than 100 British deaths here over 4 years. These IEDs are disposed of in controlled detonations.
The reason that the Marines have pushed out from Sangin so fast when people didn't think they could is because they're being very aggressive and because the high command is letting them be aggressive. I don't think the Brits were doing something wrong. Something happened in the British spirit, I think, at the top that prevented their commandos from doing what the Marines are doing.
A Taliban sniper. Some Taliban are irreconcilables, hardliners who travelled here to fight.
Suppress!
Most are locals. The Marines are hoping to demonstrate to them that NATO will be the eventual winner here.
Smoke!
Then it's hoped they might switch sides. And it will be time to hand Sangin over to the Afghan forces. Paul Wood, BBC News, with the US Marines in Sangin.
Hey, cover our 6 rounds!
Well, it is that handover which Paul just spoke of, which has so many military and political leaders around the world nervous. The Obama administration has reaffirmed its plan to begin a drawdown of US forces this summer. But what will they leave behind? Today, Matt Fry sat down in London with former British Foreign Secretary David Miliband.
David Miliband, thanks for talking to us. Are you confident that British and American troops can actually withdraw from Afghanistan according to the timetable that's been published?
Well, I'm confident that British and American troops are making a difference in Afghanistan. What I don't think is clear is a sustainable plan for that country's future, because we all know that in the end civil wars and insurgencies are ended with a political settlement. And however hard the military work, without a political settlement, there can't be a durable peace.
So you don't see a political settlement in the offing?
I think there are 2 aspects of the drive for a political settlement that should give us real concern at the moment. One is that within Afghanistan, the process to bring together the diverse tribes of Afghanistan who need to all live inside the political tent, that isn't being led by the Afghan government with drive and zeal at the moment. Secondly, the regional effort to make sure that the neighbours of Afghanistan, from Pakistan all the way around to Iran, history teaches us that they're going to have to be part of a solution in that country. None of them can have Afghanistan as a client state. All of them, though, need to feel that their interests are being represented.
Doesn't it surprise you that after all these years, I mean, for America, this has been the longest war that they've ever fought, 9 years. Does it surprise you that after all this time, there hasn't been a political settlement, that hasn't been worked out?
Foreign troops have now been in Afghanistan for longer than when the Russians invaded during the 1980s. That is a very significant milestone, a sobering milestone, given the death toll in Britain, in America, in other countries. I think there's no question that in the early years after the Taliban were deposed in 2001, there was a failure to bring together the diverse tribes to ensure that there was a durable political settlement. And the danger now is that the enmities between the tribes, if you like, the drift to civil war, become stronger and stronger, and we have foreign troops fighting on too many fronts at once.
So are you worried that if and when coalition troops withdraw, that Afghanistan might fall apart, especially given the fact that President Karzai has had a pretty patchy government?
Unless there is a political settlement inside the country and with the regional powers, then the centre simply won't hold. We know from Afghan history over the last 150 years that it can only ever be governed lightly from the centre with real authority in the villages and valleys, the 40,000 villages of Afghanistan. That means that at this crucial time, when our forces are engaged in that country, often in very intensive fighting, there needs to be a political drive, because it's only a political settlement that will bring the war to an end. We need the same degree of intensity in the diplomatic effort within Afghanistan and with the neighbours if we're to get a durable settlement. I fear that a lot of the discussion about timetables means that there is a neglect of the substance of the settlement.
You've been speaking with great passion about Afghanistan. Do you miss the world stage?
Well, I think that anyone who's been in government and then finds themselves out of government, of course, has a sense of responsibility, but also a sense of frustration that you don't have the influence that existed before. What I believe is important, though, whether people are in government or in opposition, is that we don't allow Afghanistan again to become a forgotten war. It's got to be a war that remains high on the political agenda. It needs understanding and support at home, as well as the tremendous effort that's being made by the military. And it needs, above all, a sense of political purpose, because without that, there won't be the sort of durable settlement that's necessary. You talked about withdrawal from Afghanistan. The worst possible thing would be to withdraw only for then people to say you're going to have to go back because it's falling back into the bad old ways. The way to avoid that is a durable political settlement with Al-Qaeda out, the tribes in, and the neighbours on side.
Britain's former Foreign Secretary David Miliband there speaking to Matt in London.